The next section deals with your debt, and the first page that you'll see is a table which talks to you about the three of your outstanding bond issues. Currently, your 2004 bonds are callable next year. The opportunities that I think are there, unfortunately it was an advanced refunding, so the feds give you one advanced refunding, so we would have to be within 90 days of the call date in order to be able to call those bonds. And I think the call date is actually it's December 1, 2013, which means the earliest that we can call is roughly September 1 of 2013. And I will tell you, if we had the interest rates that we have today, and we didn't have that limitation, I'm here to tell you savings would be about 10 to 11%. Will interest rates be that way come September of next year? I don't know. But all indications are, we're not seeing a lot of movement. There is an alternative, and that alternative is you could do a taxable financing. Interestingly enough, the difference between, when I first started, the spread between a taxable and a tax exempt was anywhere from 1 to 2% higher to do a taxable transaction. Today, depending upon your credit, you could be anywhere from 0.5% to maybe 0.75% difference. So we actually ran some numbers thinking, what would it be like if we ran a taxable refunding? The taxable refunding takes you away from that issue of the advanced refunding. So we don't have that. You can do that at any time. The taxable refunding, your savings were 2 to 3%. That included some higher costs to issue those bonds because their taxable bonds are a little bit higher in cost to do that. But the reality is I don't think your savings are sufficient enough to probably jump to that. You're looking at maybe the neighborhood of $240,000 compared to over $800,000 if interest rates. But that would be something that as we were, work with you, that we will be monitoring, and we'll always be looking to see when is the best time to be in the market. And if you think about it, how time moves quickly, the fact that September of next year is when you would be first able to refund on a current basis the 2004s. In order to get to that point, you're probably going to start thinking about, getting your financing team completely in place and working, starting probably maybe as late as June, maybe as early as even April or May, and that's just to get to the finish line come September. So think about timing in that respect whenever you are moving forward. The other two issues, the 2007s and the 2010s, are too far out to refinance. Your opportunity to refinance is really, based at this point on your 2004s. And again, you can have lots of conversation as to how you would want to deal with that refinancing. We then also, the next page, and stop me if you have questions along the way, please. We love to answer it.
I have a question.
Sure.
Now, we're talking about 2004. Now, on the 2007, 2010, I know the call dates are far out, 2016 and 2019. But are we able to do a taxable financing for those two and still save some money? Or
I doubt that. We did not run that, but my reaction would be is we were close to your call date of 2013 for the 04s.
Sure.
You're so far out that unfortunately you have to escrow money for the bond payments. So and the escrow funds are earning next to nothing. So you really
explain a little bit how that works.
Okay. Let's take, for example, the 2007s. Your call date in 2007 is 2016. So that means that any of the bonds starting in 17 and moving forward onto 2032, you're going to have to set aside enough money between now and that call date and that includes the interest that you would have to pay, because that escrow essentially sets aside money to pay those bonds off in their entirety come the call date. And it used to be that you're investing that money into the escrow fund. Some of those earnings would help reduce that cost. Now, interest rates were higher. Right now, interest rates on escrow funds are, they're like your CDs.
Yeah.
Minimal. So the cost becomes too great. The negative arbitrage is so great that it probably is impractical to consider. Now, the alternative, and again, this is something that we really haven't had a conversation about, but there are other reasons for refinancing. Refinancing is done most of the time for savings. Sometimes they're done because you have covenants in your bond documents that are onerous and that you'd like to get rid of. Sometimes it is that you have a financial tug and pull and you want to restructure for financial reasons as opposed to for savings. Or you want to use your savings that you might have in order to deal with either one of those two items as well. So.
And when you have to set aside the escrow, is that when you refund early, or that's when you do a taxable financing?
No, it's whether or not let's assume for the moment you could do a tax-exempt advance refunding. You would have that same scenario.
Okay, that's when you have to do the escrow.
Yeah.
And that's and like the one you cited, the 2007. I mean, that by my count, $1.5 million we'd essentially have to set aside. Is that right? Roughly, just adding the 5
No,
years.
actually, if you were to add up all those years, you'd have $8.5 million plus accrued interest from the time you do your bond issue until 2016. 2016, yeah. Yeah. No, and actually,
Maybe more you want to spend.
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, I think that's, even on a taxable basis, even though rates are so close. I mean, today we just did a refinancing of a St. Louis County taxable deal that we did earlier in 2004 or 5. Taxable to taxable, the savings was 17%. Wow. So, if we can find savings, we certainly would provide you with that consideration. And I think that's one of the things that we do for all of our clients is we continue to monitor your transactions so that we meet your needs. So unfortunately, as we moving forward, we don't see on the near horizon realistically a refinancing that probably makes financial sense to you right now. On the other hand, we've also noted that you have levied accordingly in order to continue to make your annual principal and interest payments. And it appears from what we did look, and the next two sheets really talk about that, that you have levied sufficiently to cover your debt service costs, which is good because this is a speech that I give to everybody that I talk to today. There is nothing worse than doing one of two things: either not paying your debt or saying you're not going to pay your debt. And I say that I don't say that lightly, but it is something that I think it always bears repeating, because sometimes people will say, "Gee, I don't have the desire to pay this." I had one client that said, "Well, we could just walk away from this." So the reality is that if you do it once, you're out of the market for a long time, and certainly your facilities are such that it probably will, you will need to borrow at some point along the way, and the cost goes up. Cost to you, to the taxpayers, your patrons, it goes up. So I don't point you out. That's a stock speech of mine. So the next page, again, we can come back to any of this as you would like. We did some initial calculations. You have no outstanding general obligation, voted upon general obligation debt. And your debt capacity right now is, in terms of voted upon debt, is a little over $18 million. The way, and park districts are different. Park districts are different than other political subdivisions, so we can't transfer from what does the city do or what does the county do to what a park district does in terms of the way their debt is funded. And the fact is that you have the capacity, and if I will, it is, as I said to Mary earlier today, it is like it is your rate and your rate limit at the same time of what you can levy in order to pay your, in this case, your alternate revenue bonds. And you have that capacity to currently levy that. And in fact, the next page is your most recent final tax computation from, we picked Madison County because it is the largest. There's a little bit that does overlap with St. Clair County. We didn't pull that. But as you can see, you levied this year just shy of $1.4 million. We recognize that in the process, you have to account for those who don't pay and the cost of paying. And so, your levy is such that you should have sufficient revenues coming forward in order to make your annual payments, and that is good, and that is the way things are done. And so, I applaud you for recognizing that and seeing that is taken care of. I think this past year you had one of your bond issues, went away, so it's good to have that happen once in a while. The next pages after that are some things that I think you probably already have seen. It was packet information that we gave Rick when we met. One of the items is a memorandum that Mary actually prepared, explaining alternate revenue bonds. The next two pages are, rollover bonds and the way those may be handled by park districts. So but I think you are actually, it seems to me to be, from my perspective, in good financial condition, particularly with the way you've levied this year, and I think that's good. And then the final one, next to the last page, is the cover page of a report from Chapman and Cutler one of the premier bond councils not only in the Midwest, but in the country. They've done a fairly detailed memorandum on financing and borrowing alternatives for park districts in the state of Illinois. And Rick, I think we gave you a full one. I don't know if the board got the full one on that. We certainly could provide that if that would be of interest. But that is available.